You either is or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. Or you will or you won't. Either way, baby, a good man, well, he's hard to find. Welcome to the One More for the Good Guys podcast, where good guys gather to shed light on the good life, the people, and the good things that make it that way. I'm Mike McGill with my co-host, Jamie Akins. Now, raise your glass, lend us your ear, and let's have one more for the good guys. Now, sorry, don't cut it when it's every... Hey, everybody, McGill Billy here.
And I am Jamie.
Welcome back to One More for the Good Guys podcast. As we do in each and every week, we talk to you about the good things, the good life, and the good folks that make things that way, or some shit like that I can't ever remember right. And this usually
it's the spirit of it that matters.
Usually gives Jamie a big chuckle, but we like to thank everybody for
that and these gummies.
Yeah. Well, you know, hey, get them where you can, right?
Yeah.
Like to thank everybody, all of our subscribers, followers. On all these social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter.
All of our former guests,
X, too. TikTok. Yeah, all of our former guests, but all of you all who have liked, commented, subscribed, or followed. Now, for all you people that haven't, what's your problem? Get busy, would you? Do something. Well, you were sitting around watching Lawrence Welk reruns or Gilligan Island marathon. Stop it already. They get rescued, and a 1E and a 2E. Like, comment, subscribe.
They hated Ginger in real life. They hated her.
Oh, really?
Yep. Ostracized with Ginger.
I don't know anything. There was two things that I liked particularly well about Ginger. Just like on a couple more for the good guys, or one more for the good guys. Excuse me. Oh, hey. Anyhow, like, comment, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. It's free, it's easy, and it is an actual true way to help the channel. Now, come to you today to talk to you a little bit about the Cigar Hall of Fame. The Cigar Hall of Fame was actually came about in 2023,
which is surprising to me.
Very surprising.
First of all, that somebody hadn't done this before.
Very surprising. And I learned about the Cigar Hall of Fame by being a listener to the Cigar Authority. That's available anywhere you get your podcast. It is the longest running informational cigar podcast ever.
And I like to say aptly named,
yes,
because they
know their shit.
The
they
Cigar
know what
Authority.
They're talking about.
Yeah. I learn something every time they say something, man. I'm like, okay.
But the Cigar Authority, and the fella, the head cigar Indian in charge up there is a fellow by the name of David Garofalo. And Dave is also the owner of Two Guys Smoke Shop in New Hampshire. Any rate, just a great story. He's an interesting person as well. Got a great story. Started the business in 1985. They're celebrating their 40-year anniversary at Two Guys Smoke Shop this year. And they have a big thing called the New England Cigar Expo every year, which is going to be happening this year as well. So, but all of that about the Cigar Hall of Fame, and we have the one and only David Garofalo to thank for that. You can go to Cigar Hall of Fame, thecigarhalloffame.com, and find out all the stuff that we're getting ready to talk to you about. The website's a little clunky. I wish they'd done a little bit better job on that, but it's very informative and new.
It'll evolve, I'm sure.
And it's got some really good history if you're wanting to follow any kind of.
This had this cool little fireworky thing that's going on there.
Yeah,
it's very interesting.
What are you smoking?
I am smoking the Flor de Oliva Gold Connecticut wrapper.
In a Toro size.
A Toro size. About 15 minutes into it, and I'll tell you, man, cold draw on this thing was just like chocolate graham crackers. It's very good, and so far it's just wonderful. Yeah. I mean, and for you know, poo-poo on the Connecticut's now, just remember, it's going to come a day when you're going to like Connecticut's a lot.
Yeah.
They're like, yep, they said that on that show.
Yeah.
But so far, fantastic, man.
Well, and, you know, smoking a milder cigar from time to time, especially something that's got flavor, and especially something that has flavor and is a complete value brand, such as the Flor de Oliva. You know, there's something to be said about that. They're great to keep in bundles, to keep in your humidor for an everyday smoke, walking the dog smoke, riding the tractor smoke, cutting the yard smoke, having a beer smoke,
golf smoke,
giving to a buddy who don't really know if he's really wanting to get into cigar smoking or not, because their value is extraordinary. I am also smoking a Flor de Oliva, but I am smoking the Flor de Oliva Corojo wrapper in a 5x50, very traditional Robusto size. So, and I'm taking the band off because it's already loose and it's bothering me. I say it's bothering me. The one thing I can tell you real quickly about Flor de Oliva cigars, in my opinion, now when I first got into the hobby,
start calling it the sport.
Yeah.
The cigar sport. Yeah.
When I first, man, that's a good cigar.
I mean, it has a Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Well, that's true. When I first got into the hobby, or the sport, as Jamie would like for it to be duly noted. Did you get that into minutes? Okay.
Started here, right here.
Yeah, that imaginary.
Yeah, imaginatary. Yeah,
that's an imaginatized. That's not even a word. Boy, I'm having a hard time. That's an imagined secretary.
Correct.
Imaginatary.
Correct.
You can get in trouble saying that. Imaginatary.
Imaginatary.
I mean, imaginatary hell. At any rate, the Flor de Olivas are a great value cigar. When I first got into the hobby, sport, whatever you want to call it, I was purposely looking. Let me say that. Let me clarify that. I was purposely looking for the least expensive, long filler, hand-rolled product out there, and trying to find the best of the bunch. Before I got into long filler cigars, like a lot of you all probably, and we've covered this on 10 things every cigar smoker should know, and I can't remember what episode that was, but typically, like a lot of new people that get into the hobby or sport, was I was smoking Cuban sandwiches. Now, that's just a slang name for short filler cigar. So you had a hand-rolled wrapper, but the insides were just chopped up pieces and finely pieces. Now, there were some long stems and some stalk stuff in there for combustion to keep the cigar burning the way it should, but basically chopped and processed tobacco. Now, when I say processed, I don't mean any additives of any kind, just processed that it was chopped finely into smaller pieces.
Basically cut like cigarette tobacco, but without the additives.
Kind of a mixture between cigarette tobacco and like ribbon cut.
Oh, yeah, ribbon
tobacco.
Yeah. Got you.
Pipe tobacco.
Yeah, okay.
Kind of that kind of cut. So, like if... well, we've gave enough analogies.
Well, whereas
kind of like a coarse ground beef,
okay,
like a chili grind versus a hamburger grind.
Oh, okay.
Like if you go to your butcher and you ask them for a chili grind, you're going to have big coarse ground beef like you would hamburger, but it would be bigger around than hamburger.
Well, and versus long filler, which is one continuous leaf, basically, and not chopped. So,
right.
Which is every premium cigar that you're probably smoking now is long filler.
And the difference in quality is
considerable.
Very noticeable. So any rate, I tried all kinds of brands. Every brand's got them. Everybody does one that's an entry level and or a value priced brand that you can get started with. All the kind of, my father's got them. Everybody, I can name them off, but you can find them everywhere. The biggest thing is you got to look for that they are long filler cigars, and that they're handmade. So Flor de Oliva was the cigar that I came away from my testing of buying all these different brands and just going through them myself and figuring out what I liked better than any of the others. Flor de Oliva is the one I settled on as my personal favorite. The cost, they're so affordable. The quality. Now, is this going to be a multi-layered, transformational cigar journey and all that shit everybody writes on all these reviews and things like that? No. This is probably going to be a pretty one-dimensional type of cigar. It's going to have one good flavor note, and it's going to last pretty much throughout the thing. You might accept some small changes in it as it goes along, because I think, quite honestly, they have to change a little bit because you're using different portions of the plant to get the right combustion rate to make everything burn correctly with any of them. But at any rate, Flor de Oliva is the brand that I chose as being my best. And as far as a value line of cigars, of a premium hand-rolled cigar that is long filler, that is our line that we carry at Good Guys Cigars. So,
and to concur with what you said about you going through all the brands stuff, I didn't really do that as much because I didn't start out.
Well, we were in different tax brackets. Just tell the truth. Go ahead, Jamie.
The other part is I lost my train of thought. But I love those memes. It's like, if I win the lottery,
there will be
signs. They'll be swimming in cigars and shit.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, and I guess from a newbie standpoint, when Mike says, "Hey, these are this very economical and they're long filler," what he means is that, wow, and they're long filler too. Yeah. Because that is something to be, desired. And I agree, man. So realistically, just as far as inexpensive, everyday smokes go, almost impossible to beat as a brand.
And living where we do in Tennessee and some places at different climates of what you do in other regions of our country, you need to, for your humidors to work the best, you need to have that thing 3/4 of the way full so you can kind of set it and forget it, and you don't have to drive yourself crazy running around, with a fan and, any kind of other crazy shit you can think of to try to keep your RH levels right. In your humidor, these are a great option. They are so economical. And again, we carry them at Good Guys Cigars. I did all the work so you guys don't have to. I tried them all.
It's hard work too.
It was hard work, and it killed a lesser man. But these were my favorite.
The sacrifices you have made.
That's right. But any rate, enough about that. Check those out. Great smokes. If you see us out sometime or another, we'll probably have one of these with us, because I always try to carry something around that new folks can try that's approachable as a new person to the sport and or hobby of cigars. Now, Cigar Hall of Fame, like I said, was started in 2023 by David Garofalo, owner and founder of Two Guys Smoke Shop in Salem, New Hampshire. And their first entry into the Cigar Hall of Fame, and you may or may not remember this brand because we have featured this brand on a show, but it was way, way back when in the early days of the podcast. Cabañas Cigars. Cabañas Cigars was the first inductee into the class of 2023. And the reason Cabañas Cigars was the first brand to be recognized as an inductee to the Cigar Hall of Fame, we'll just give you a little backstory. Cabañas was a true giant of the 19th century, which found its roots in the distinguished
Which is
world,
the 1800s.
Yes. Which found its roots in the distinguished world of tobacco craftsmanship. Even before Spain lifted its monopoly on Cuban tobacco in 1817, Cabañas was already making waves as a purveyor to the Spanish crown. In fact, it is widely regarded as the first brand to introduce the Havana Segar, Segar, to both England and to the United States of America during that era. Unofficially born in 1797 under the name of its founder, Francisco Cabañas. The brand official registration followed in 1810. And remarkably, Cabañas holds the prestigious distinction of being the oldest known registered Cuban brand, dating back further than any other cigar or product in Cuban history, excuse me. Now, what's interesting about that is think about, you're this guy and you got the patent number 00001, right? And you've named it after you. Well, these things caught on so popular, the Cabañas as a brand, that as many of you Southerners know that are listening or watching us, if you say, if your grandmother or grandfather, or maybe your dad or mom, depending upon their age, or hell, for that matter, me or Jamie, says, "Hey, grab me a Coke, would you?" And you've got nothing but Pepsi in the refrigerator. Well, that's what they meant, stupid.
We're not going to like it, but what we meant is.
But that's what they meant.
Yeah, any soda.
They wanted a cola.
Yeah, cola.
A soda.
Cola.
A pop. And
a dope. My grandmother used to call
big red dope.
Big red dope.
And a rooster sandwich. You figure that out. But that's what it meant. So these things were so popular and so well received and liked that they were just, cigars were starting to be called Cabañas. So that raised,
awareness.
That raised awareness.
Hey, those things are selling.
So another big Cuban brand at the time, after this became so, after several years of everybody just referring to cigars as Cabañas, was the fella named Partagas. And as you know, if you follow the industry or the history of cigars, Partagas is a very old Cuban brand, not old as Cabañas. But he released a line of cigars called Partagas Cabañas. Well, that rose a stink.
I bet.
Right?
I bet.
So,
very Partagas Monte Cristo of him.
Francisco, was that his name? Was it? Yeah, that pissed Francisco Cabañas off because the courts even though he had the very first trademark #1 on the name Cabañas, they ruled it as Cabañas was a generic term because it was the court of popular opinion and what the people said. So they deemed it okay for Partagas to continue using the Cabañas name. Well, that really pissed old man Cabañas off. So, old man Cabañas goes down. Now, let me make sure I got this right. Just real quick. Sorry. Yeah, it was Partagas. So Cabañas is pissed off, right? So Partagas is like, I'm going to fix this. Now, you were just saying you were watching, what was it on Amazon Prime? That was the biblical story?
I think it's called The Story of David.
The Story of David?
Yeah.
Well, this is some biblical shit that's getting ready to happen in this story. So old man Partagas decides, that bastard, he's under my skin because it's really getting hard to sell these things. So Partagas goes to the farmer that's growing all the stuff for Cabañas and says, hey, by the way, he's fucking your wife.
Really?
Yes. Which turns out he was. I mean, he's the owner of Coca-Cola, for God's sakes. Cabañas, right?
Yeah.
So he's getting it probably from every chance he can get. But nonetheless, he says, hey, he's stooping your wife.
Mm.
And so the farmer gets really pissed off and kills Cabañas. Because Partagas says, if you'll kill him, I'll cut you in. You can grow all the tobacco, and I'll buy every bit of my tobacco forever from you. And you will never, ever want for anything as long as you live.
So what you're saying is that Partagas is actually the devil. Sounds like making a deal with the devil right here, but you kill that guy.
Very much so.
And
if you kill this, you get this forever. So the farmer does it. He goes, kills Cabañas, kills him. Graveyard dead.
Graveyard dead.
He comes back, tells Partagas, all right, Mr. Partagas, I've done your bidding. I killed that bastard who was sleeping with my wife. I'm ready for mine. Well, Partagas gives it to him. Kills the farmer.
Partagas kills the farmer.
Kills the farmer because dead men tell no tales. I told you there was some biblical shit.
Partagas really is.
Yes, he really was the devil. Right? So, any rate, so I heard that story the other day on one of the episodes of the Cigar Authority. So you can go back and hear David tell it. And I'm sure there's probably other episodes there, but he was talking about going back and seeing Nestor Miranda, who was Cuban, one of those guys, one of those Jedi Cuban guys with cigars. And David had a trip to go visit Cuba, and Nestor picked him up, and he said, what do you want to see? Where do you want to go now that you're in Cuba? He said, I want to see everything,
Especially where they kill each other.
And he said, well, we got to start in the graveyard. And right across the way from where Cabañas lay is the grave of Partagas as well.
Wow.
So the story began there. So,
man,
some pretty crazy stuff. But Cabañas was the first cigar company, the oldest and first cigar company in Cuban brand. So that was inductee #1. Inductee #2 was Cuesta Reyes cigars, which began, its legendary journey began. It's in the heart of Tampa, Florida now, but began in 1884 when a young Spanish immigrant, Angel La Madrid Cuesta, followed his passion for cigars and opened his very first cigar factory. Little did he know that his step would mark the beginning of a remarkable legacy in the world of handmade cigars. I'll save you some of this stuff, but by the Spanish crown and the king, all the way up into 1959, the legacy of Cuesta Rey entered a new chapter when it was acquired by J.C. Newman. Now, if you'll remember, a few episodes back, we had a cigar right after Christmas time that I had gifted Jamie for Christmas. It was a Cuesta del Rey. That was a new and one of its kind that you could only buy at brick and mortar stores at the time. So J.C. Newman being a name synonymous with tradition and heritage in the cigar industry, proudly bearing the name atop the oldest cigar factory in the United States. Located in the renowned city of Tampa, Florida, Cuesta Rey's roots remained firmly embedded in its birthplace. And you can read the rest of the more relevant or more what am I trying to say, Jamie? The not relevant
Details?
news, but no, like now.
Current.
Thank you. It's a big word. I have trouble with those. But you can read the current history with J.C. Newman and Cuesta Rey cigars. And the third inductee from 2023 was probably one of the most recognized names by cigar. Whether you're a cigar person or not, would you say?
I'd say it's the brand that's synonymous with luxury.
I would say that's very good, and I would say it's very noticed by people other than cigar people. Yeah, probably more than I'd say the only other one would be like maybe Monte Cristo.
Because of the origin of the name, mostly.
Yeah, right.
You know.
But the third inductee of the 2023 class was Davidoff Cigars. In the world of cigars, there's one name that stands as a beacon of excellence and timeless sophistication, and that's Davidoff. The journey of this iconic brand began in 1946 when Zeno Davidoff, a visionary cigar retailer, obtained a license to craft his own series of cigars under his name. The inaugural creation, the Chateau Latour, marked the beginning of a legacy that would transcend time. In 1967, Cuba Tabac sought to collaborate with Zeno Davidoff, envisioning the creation of cigars that would bear the Davidoff name, recognizing the potential for greatness. Zeno embraced this partnership, setting the stage for an extraordinary chapter in the brand's history.
Relatively new kid on the block, though, from the timeline standpoint, 1940 something.
Mm-hmm.
So,
however, the winds of change would soon lead Zeno Davidoff to new horizons, and in 1990, amidst disputes with Cuba, he sought to secure a new location to continue bringing his iconic cigars to market. And fate led him to the enchanting landscapes of the Dominican Republic.
Does it say that?
Yeah. Yeah. And
enchanting.
Owned by the renowned Hendrik Kellner, from that moment onward, Davidoff cigars were crafted within the hallowed walls of Tabadom, I don't know.
Over there.
Embodying, way over yonder. Embodying the essence of perfection that Zeno had always envisioned. Now, if you go back a couple, three maybe episodes, we were smoking some Davidoff cigars, and we were smoking the Zeno Platinum Scepter series, as well as I believe I was smoking a Zeno Nicaragua.
Mm-hmm.
Both Ecuadorian Connecticut shade wrappers, medium, mild to medium. And I will say this about Davidoff. They are Trying to think of the best way to say this. As a cigar smoker and as a cigar smoker who smoked a lot of different types of cigars, there is something renownedly accurate and telling when you smoke a Davidoff. Especially when I'm talking like any of the stuff that's made with Ecuador, Connecticut. Not so much the late hours or the different wrapper varieties, but the traditional type of Davidoff stuff. They are very Davidoffish.
Well, that's true. The wrapper shade.
If that's any kind of way to describe it at all.
The wrapper color is like none other. Their Ecuadorian shade wrapper looks different to me.
Yeah.
Lighter for some reason. It looks like Connecticut shade, paper thin in some of them. You know, I would like to hear Dave talk about why he picked. I can see Cabañas being in the Hall of Fame. Okay. Right. That's the first, right?
Yeah.
And the Cuesta Del Rey.
Mm-hmm.
Cuesta Rey. Okay. You know, it's storied.
It goes back to the 1800s.
It's storied history, but then Davidoff. Why not Padron or whatever, you know?
Okay, I think I can answer this. Now I have no idea whether I'm right or wrong. Obviously, I'm always right. But it's European versus American. We think something's really old when it's 200 years old. And European when it's not old unless it's 1,000 years old. And Davidoff being because it was that it probably might have been around the first one of the first in, I don't know, you can't really say modern eras, but kind of a boom with the Cubans and all that stuff. And because he became such a instant success in the European market, he was kind of the first.
Right.
I would say that's why.
Oh, well, that's a good point. I mean, in my head,
again, I'm just
because of the current owners of Davidoff, and in my head, they're in London. You know, it's like, oh, they're in London. So that's probably it. They are I get that. I mean, but you know, it's not my list. And I'm glad somebody's doing it. And I'm sure that being inducted first doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot. But just interesting, the picks. Cabañas, I see. The other two, I think you could have put some other things in there just as well. So
I think there are more. I think there are actual. I think there are actual. There's an actual episode, is what I'm trying to say. I think there's an actual episode of the Cigar Authority. You'd have to go back to last year. And it would be probably either right before the the New England Cigar Expo, or it would be right after the Cigar Expo that he goes over all that.
Oh, okay, so it's on there.
I think it's on there.
I'll research it and see.
But best of what I can remember and just by what I think, I would say that's why, because he those cigars had always been there in the European market, but he made them. He was basically, he wasn't stooping somebody's old lady, but they might have been calling cigars over there Davidoffs. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like Cabañas. So,
right, true.
That's kind of where, what I think. But.
So that's the first three, huh? And there's six
the 2023. That was the first one.
Inaugural class.
Yes,
right?
There you go. Very good. And
Just
the
like
2024 class was, I said last year it would be, it would be the year before last. So it'd be the around the expo time of 2023. But those episodes are archived back that far, so you can still find it. Now, last year's class, and I'll let you do this one.
Okay. Inductee number 1.
Yeah, because you're...
this is my wheelhouse.
This is your guy.
Inductee number 1 in 2024 is Perdomo Cigars. We were talking before we started this episode about doing an episode on perfect cigars that you can get all the time, not some 1959 thing that's been a humidor 70 years. I'm talking about
Aniversario, Reserva.
Yeah.
Especianado.
Yeah, that
Flip-a-Flato.
Yeah, that JFK had in his humidor and fucking,
Well, and something that's not like we were talking about earlier, not particularly on this subject, but just something that's not a special production.
Right.
Something that's on a regular production that you, the consumers, you, the viewers, you, the followers, can actually go out and try. I like to hear about those special ones, but don't be putting them on the list of the 10 cigars you should try in 2025, and then I can't fucking buy none of them because they're all sold out.
Yeah,
they only made 800 bucks a piece of them.
Yeah, and not to get on a tangent with this, but this is exactly why Cuban cigars should not be in the Cigar Aficionado top 25 list. Because you can't fucking get them here.
Well,
I understand it's a global market. They're a global magazine. Bullshit. They're American. Okay, Perdomo Cigars. Perfect cigar for me is the Perdomo 10th Anniversary Champagne, which is in the Connecticut wrapper, Nicaraguan binder and filler. It's if you said, Jamie, what's a perfect cigar? That's perfect. One of them. And I also mentioned the one that you found, that the 12-year double-aged.
My perfect
Maduro
cigar for me.
Yeah, so there's two Perdomo.
12-year double-aged vintage Maduro.
Boy, it's delicious. It might be even a better smoke all the way around than the champagne, but I just love, you get what you like, Some people like McDonald's fries, some people like Wendy's,
The champagne, and as you're probably going to touch on, and I'll say this just real quickly, the champagne it's kind of the torchbearer, if you will, the benchmark. I mean, they said it couldn't be done.
Right.
You can't do that in Nicaragua. You can't do a Connecticut,
They won't blend. It'll be too overpower the wrapper.
You can't. Why? Because we say you can't.
Yeah. Well, apparently you don't tell old Nick no, and you can't do something. It says Perdomo traces its roots to the town of San Jose de las Lajas, Cuba, about 17 miles southeast of Havana, where company founder Silvio Perdomo was raised. Perdomo went into the cigar industry as a young man, serving his apprenticeship for Orquesta Isia. His son, Nicholas Perdomo Sr., soon followed his father into the cigar-making trade, beginning his apprenticeship in 1948, and later joined his father as an executive at the Devil's House, Partagas. And he immigrated to the U.S. With the help from the Catholic Church and settled near Washington, D.C., and resumed his life as an immigrant. In 1976, Nick Perdomo Sr. and his family, including his son Junior, moved from Baltimore to Miami, Florida, to be closer to relatives. Felt the urge to follow in the footsteps of his father and his grandfather as a cigar maker, despite his inexperience. And in 1992, started a business based out of his garage, marking the beginning of today's Perdomo cigars. And I don't know that I knew that about his grandfather. And then
I remember it vaguely. Yeah.
That's the story that they don't tell often. They tell the story of how he was not in the cigar business, and which is cool,
And Nick left a very successful
business to start another
one. He was I don't know if it says that in there, but he was a air traffic controller.
It doesn't mention that. It just talks about
Nick, the one we know now, not Junior, or I guess Junior.
No, it'd be Senior. I guess. Anyway, those guys.
But that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that they were in the business and then they weren't, and then all of a sudden he's back in the business. That part, that's saying?
Yeah, all that's great. But I'm just saying Nick himself, like completely leaving
another industry, unrelated.
But not just that, but that job was hard to fucking get.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you took a special breed of human to be. They found all that out, when they went on strike.
When they fired them all.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Perdomo Cigars was the 4th inductee overall into the Cigar Hall of Fame. And I'd say a lot of that's got to do with their relationship with Dave and them. But I tell you what, you cannot beat their presentation and their quality and their consistency. Perdomo is that they draw test every cigar. I know we've talked about that a lot, but think about that. They give a damn that what you paid for, you're actually going to be able to smoke. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And, back in, I can't remember when it was, but it still is applied today. There was the feds put on a federal S-ship tax that was going to affect the prices of cigars. So basically, everything they told Nick that he couldn't do and shouldn't do, he did the opposite, and he's been, and he's in the Hall of Fame, right?
Absolutely.
Because he didn't go up on prices to fight against the S-ship tax. Not only did he not go up, he didn't just keep them the same. He actually lowered the prices on his cigars because he knew that it was a consumer-driven business.
It's very, we talk
very much like what we said with the NFL.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
it's like that. Him doing that is I in my mind, that's the same thing in sports. Parallel would be like when Peyton Manning took a major pay cut so his players could, so his other guys could, so they'd be successful. But make no mistake, Perdomo lost money to keep prices at a certain level.
And to not only keep his valued customers, but eventually, by word of mouth, get more customers and grow the business into one of the absolute top-selling businesses to date.
Well, like you said, they make 1 million cigars in each size of the Perdomo 10th anniversary champagne every year.
Yeah.
And there's like 8 sizes, I think.
Yeah.
So it was a lot. Anyway, brilliant company, brilliant. And I'm ashamed to say that I really didn't get to smoke a lot of Perdomo except in the last 4 or 5 years. That's been about when I was starting to get into it. So I'm glad I did.
Well, they're not even to this date, even on this most recent Cigar Aficionado top 25 list. Their stuff's, I think maybe they got a 16 this year for the 30th. I think was the Connecticut maybe, or maybe the Sun-Grown. I can't remember, but
I think it was the Sun-Grown because that was the one
when you look in all these different publications, I don't think Nick is going to be the type of guy that likes being told what to do, or to get this, you got to do that.
Yeah. And which is directly related to not being on that top 25 list.
Yes, absolutely.
And because I'm telling you right now, those 2 damn cigars we just named can be a number 1 in any year. Can they not?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
Anyway, Perdomo Perdomo is one of my favorite brands, one of yours as well. So the next on our list, there were I guess they're going to do 3 inductees per year.
They are not.
Oh, they're not. Well, they did these 2 years.
They did those first 2, yeah.
Number 2, inductee number 2 for 2024 is Rocky Patel Cigars. Now, we have a let's not call it love-hate. Let's call it sweet and sour relationship with Rocky Patel Cigars. So don't hate them. And I'll tell you this, I really, now I don't know the man. I have met him, but it was in a, hey, shake your hand, like your stuff. That was the end of it. But I'll tell you this, not many people, if anybody in the industry, has done more for the industry than Rocky Patel. As far as getting from a lobbying standpoint. Is that not accurate?
Yes, absolutely. He's fought the FDA more times than Hagler and Hearns had rematches, or Roberto and Sugar Ray.
Man, I love boxing then.
Yeah.
We need to do a greatest boxer list. For some reason, when I click on this,
I'm having the same thing.
It goes to Perdomo still, but we can talk about it. So my experience with Rocky Patel has been pretty good overall. I mean, I can remember the 1990 and the 1992 series were some of the first things I ever smoked, and because they came in these bundles. Are we still in line here?
No, I pushed it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think we're all right.
It just affects the mics, I guess. So anyway, they were because they include them in bundles, you know, and they still do. One of the companies for sure. And I like them fine. They were all right. And
I like the 99, the Connecticut that they had. That was one of the,
I don't know if I ever had that.
When I first kind of got started into it, Chad was one of the guys that was saying, "Oh, you should try Rocky Patel." I like those a lot because he was a little more up to date with some of the newer releases than what I was, But go ahead.
So, similar experience. That you take the average. I bet you, if you take the average non-cigar smoker, let's just say the casual, every now and then cigar smoker, and say, hey, name 3 cigar brands, Rocky Patel is going to be one of them. They are the, I shouldn't say that. They make some great smokes. Certainly the Rocky Patel 60 is a brilliant cigar. I really like that one in the 60 size.
Yes.
The 60. The Rocky Patel Sun Grown in I think it's a Gordo, I like. And as far as things I have that I keep, but I've had some bad experiences with them too. And, but that's not to say a lot of people love them. And, I'm not going to say, hey, don't get that. But what I am going to do, though, in that particular brand, I want to steer you towards a few of the different models that I prefer. If you say, hey, Jamie, what's a good brand of cigars for me to look into? And I'm thinking, okay, I want all of them to be bangers. It's going to be Perdomo or somebody like that, because everything they make is pretty dead burn good.
Well, and I think part of that too is like if there had been a consistent basis on the Rocky stuff that you smoke, they would be in your humidor. Like
right, correct.
Perdomo,
that is correct.
Like La Aroma, like La
Oliva.
Flor de las Santillas, Oliva. Doesn't always mean that they're the overall best and or whatever best, but that's the biggest thing that I had with Rocky. Now, here's an interesting thing I learned about Rocky just today, actually, was, he came along during the cigar boom of the 90s. So now here you got a guy who was a lawyer on the federal level and the state level, which is extraordinary in its own right.
Came in handy too, didn't it?
Came in real handy for all of us, and
Absolutely.
you included, whether you know it or not. But, when he said that he was going to continue this brand and that they were going to be named Rocky Patel Cigars, everybody told him he was nuts and that he wouldn't last, that he wouldn't make it because
of his name.
So there's prejudice everywhere. Rocky Patel, and the, the emphasis on the last name. He's Indian.
Yeah.
And at that time, and probably now, I'm not sure, but it is not a business that is that diverse for Indians
at all.
Right.
The only.
So he faced some battles there. And I guess one of the things, and he was one of Rocky, Perdomo, and our next one are three of the brands, the top brands today that survived the cigar boom of the 90s. Did you know that?
That came in at that time and are still around.
And then survived.
But there's the tie-in then.
Right.
That's great. I did not know that. But something that's interesting about, we went to school with some people, like Nick Patel was in my class.
Yeah.
So we went to school with a lot of people named Patel. And when I first started smoking cigars,
Harry Patel, and then I had Harry Patel, and then there was another, there was a girl. I can't remember. I'll think of it
anyway. And they're still around this area.
And successful.
One of them's an attorney thing, and
hard workers.
Oh yeah, great. Yeah, but having known the name, having known that name, being around people, I knew that he was Indian, but it never. And it still has, I still don't think this way about it. It never crossed my mind that he was an outsider.
Right.
And here's why. One, I didn't know, a lot of the cigar industry is the good old boy network, just like any other industry. You don't get right down to it. But certainly because of the origins of it,
it's very centralized to
Central America.
Sure.
But I didn't think that, and here's why. Because Gurkha cigars, Gurkha is an Indian warrior, right? Nepalese, over that way. So it never dawned on me that Patel was out of place in the cigar industry because it really never crossed my mind. I tell you, I wish. And probably this is partly my fault because I haven't tried a whole lot of Rockies, to be honest with you. Different. You've probably smoked more than I have.
Probably. I was trying to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll probably. Well, to generalize and save time, I've probably 10 different blends that he's made.
Right, and he's got 50.
Yeah.
So, and I there's no way I've smoked 10. Sorry, Rocky. I just don't think about it because I guess I'm far enough along in my cigar journey that I have to really work at being. Before we started this, before this thing of ours, I got settled into what my wheelhouses are, I feel, but now that we're trying new things and we're in the business, I'm smoking the stuff all the time. So that's probably, I need to say this. I probably should try some more Rocky Patel stuff just because I owe it to the man. Just for that reason.
Absolutely.
You know,
I would agree with that. We may even, and that's something we've started doing, just not, just as a sidebar, we've started doing, a lot of the stuff that we carry, a lot of the stuff that we're trying to stand behind that to bring to you all. I think that's the good thing. I think that's that's what this podcast is, the vehicle for that.
Right. Okay.
Is to trying things that we know, trying things that we don't know, trying things that we carry, so we can have an accurate and truthful depiction and description of what we're selling, what we're talking about.
Yeah, and to be able to compare and be able to say, customer, hey, if you like this in this brand, you're going to like this one and this one, and this one most likely. So so that's me. I need to do a better job of trying more. What are we calling cigar? Okay, this is a brand, right? The individual ones are those models,
blends.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I use that term. I was just trying to say, is that how?
I think that's what they're referred to as blends.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though they have names and stuff,
right.
I'm in the, in my head, I'm in the car world. It's like Chevrolet, and then that's a
Malibu,
Sierra,
Chevette, Citation.
Yeah. Right. So
yeah. Well, still the same model as that, but I think they're referred to as blends.
Yeah. Yeah, and that now that you say that, I'm like, oh yeah, dummy. But yeah, okay.
In the 90s, Rocky was basically he was a entertainment lawyer and product liability lawyer.
God, boy, I bet he couldn't wait to get out of that
shit. He was addressed by friends and suggested into getting into the tobacco market and the premium cigars, and Indian Tobacco Cigar Company was born. Rocky had already completed the first step of his journey in 96. RTDA trade show in Cincinnati, Ohio, Indian Tobacco Cigar Company arrived. People flocked to the booth to purchase hundreds of these new, brightly packaged sticks. And Rocky felt that it was up to the young companies to come into the marketplace with fresh ideas, bold packaging, and fuller cigars. With eye-popping packaging, Patel had gone against the grain, and the strategy certainly paid off. Now, we could go on and on about this, but we want to. We'll leave some of that for you guys to do, to go and find this. But one of the things about all of these folks that we've talked about was something that we were talking about before we even started the podcast today. Was we were talking about Osgener of CAO and the history of CAO. And of course, they sold, and now Tim's back in the business after 13 years of doing the Osgener family cigars. But the whole time,
who we got to meet,
and who is partnered up with Tennessee natives, Crown Heads. But what we talked about before we started the podcast was, at every avenue this Armenian family was going to take into the tobacco world, into the tobacco business, into the cigars, into the cigar business, into the cigar world of business. At just about every turn of everything they thought they wanted to do, they were told that was a bad idea.
That's impossible.
Or that's impossible. Now, we have just read about two of the most iconic ones to survive the the cigar boom of the 90s that are present day, the big dogs, if you will, of independently owned cigar manufacturers in Nick Perdomo and Rocky Patel. In all of their story, what was the thing that tied all that together?
They were told they couldn't do it, and they did.
You shouldn't do it. This won't work. Why not? And it was never any, I think one of the things that I read through the lines was there was no real proven answer of why. It was just because it's not what you're supposed to do, or it's not what you do, or it's not what we do. And all three of those people and companies have charged ahead, and two of them that we've talked about, and I'm sure at some point in time, CAO will probably be in the Cigar Hall of Fame, because at one time they were as big or bigger than anybody in the damn business. Is the fact is dream, heart, hard work, and the dedication of what you want to do in any field of any choice is up to you. And don't be bullied and or limited by someone that can't give you a factual answer on why this will not work.
A lot of naysayers in life.
A lot of naysayers.
Never share things that are intimate and close to your heart and important with people that won't cherish it like you do.
Absolutely.
Quotes by One More for the Good Guys.
There you go. That is a good quote.
Be redundant. Did I tell you the basketball quote I said? Be redundant in practice, or be redundant at losing.
Yeah, there you go. Oh man!
Oh boy, they pulled through.
And the third,
it's opening day in reality today.
the third introduction to the 2024 Cigar Hall of Fame, and I'm having to just do a little bit of this on my own because,
and currently the last member so far.
That is correct. Tell me about is La Flor Dominicana, LFD Cigars, owned by owner Lito Gomez. In 1994, they wanted to produce their own cigars in their own factory where they would have total control over the quality of the product. With both beauty and functionality in mind, they designed it with a unique ambiance that reflects the style and imbues a sense of joy into the employees and visitors alike. Lito Gomez is often regarded as one of the most innovative brains in the cigar industry. He is the founder and CEO of the brand La Flor Dominicana. Although a former jeweler, you can't find him these days on his farm. You can find him these days on the farm, experimenting with newer and more daring blends. Who is Lito Gomez, you might ask? Was born in Spain but raised in Uruguay. God damn it. This son of a bitch. Pardon me, folks. Born in Spain, raised in Uruguay. His dad had a vigorous work ethic, but lost his arm in an industrial accident. This incident forced his father to reinvent his life. All these toughened up the character and intensity for Lito for the rest of his life. Search of opportunities, he moved to Toronto, Canada. This was after being denied an American visa. He would take up menial jobs to get by. And however, the cold winter was too much. So they moved to Florida. Florida. Where they found better success running 2 liquor stores and a pawn shop.
As you would.
Yeah.
All right.
Florida man.
As expected.
With jewelry, he turned his pawn shop into a full-blown jewelry store. But at the end of a working day at Perkins, the jewelry shop he owned on Miami's North Beach, Gomez would experience an incident that would shake and resolve. The two men armed with a pistol came into the shop. Gomez was tied to his jeweler with duct tape, with their mouths both gagged. The thieves carted away jewelry and cash in the region of $400,000 and were never caught. The robbery changed him. He sold the shop shortly after this and never reopened.
Does nobody steal cigars? Is that the moral of the story?
He was dating Inez Lorenzo, who are now married. The two combined their resources with a Miami real estate mogul to create a cigar brand named Los Libertadores. Easy. Libertadores, and it's probably pronounced differently, but in 94, Lorenzo managed distribution and advertising while Gomez ran the factory. In 1994, they started LFD. And there again, as we said earlier, these are three brands that still are thriving today and number one names in the industry. And all of them, the one thing they did have in common is that they survived the cigar boom of the 90s. So, before we wrap it up and all that, this is that and this is this and that, what did you think about your Florida Oliva?
Toasted graham crackers, start to finish. I tell you, it's got a little bit of a nuttiness to it right in the center, in the middle.
Yeah.
And this is a cigar that's mild enough that I'd give this to anybody.
Yeah.
I'd say, here you go. You can get a little pepper out of it if you retro hail and some dark fruit notes I got there towards the center. Burn line on this one wasn't quite as one you had, but that could have been me cause that. But anyway, I can't say enough about this, especially for the price.
For the money.
For the money,
and for somebody who wants to experience premium, someone who wants to experience hand-rolled long filler cigars.
Right.
I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, and no, one thing we never talk about too is that, sometimes with all good intentions, you'll sit down and you'll have man, I got 2 hours to kill here and smoke. I'm gonna light this sucker up, whatever. Things happen, I wouldn't feel bad at all about smoking half of this and just pitching it because
that's a good point.
It's and not that it deserves to be. I'd smoke these every day.
The economics of it make it that easy for you to be able to do.
They sure do.
No, I tell you, this was the Corojo in the Robusto size that I was smoking. It's a
man.
Hey, it's a one spicy meatball. But it's a great cigar too. I love the Corojo wrapper stuff. I've always been a big fan of it. This one is very, very toothy. And if you don't know what that means, go back through some of the episodes, 10 things you should know.
Toothy.
You can't handle the tooth. And some folks can't handle the tooth on the Corojo, but good, spicy, robust cigar. Definitely not for a beginner, but for somebody, again, who wants to get creative. They make these in 4 different blends. They make them in the gold, which is the Great Connecticut that Jamie's smoking. They make them in the natural, which I believe is just a Habano wrapper, and just called Florida Oliva. And then they make them in the Corojo. And they also make them in a Maduro that I smoked the other night because it had been a while since I had one. And it's a straight up, probably about a number 5 Maduro.
Sweet.
Very, it was, I wouldn't say considerably sweet, but yes, very easy, medium body, good flavor, some sweetness. But man, I'm telling you, for the value, these are the way to go.
And for the along those lines, they're very different, all four of them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's not like you're like, oh, is this one kind of like this one? It kind of it's got the same band, but they really smoke a lot different, you know. I had that one on a previous episode, and it's pretty stout.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got some oomph behind it. But you know, like they're all very different. That Connecticut I had with a light Nyan bean roast coffee from our good friends at Three Bears Coffee here in Knoxville.
Where's Goldilocks?
Was a wonderful. Oh, she's trying to find porridge. Oh,
who's in the bed over there?
And but I had it with a nice dark roast, or maybe it was a light roast coffee. Any rate,
coffee.
The Connecticut is good with a cup of coffee. This cigar would be just fine with a high proof bourbon and or maybe a rum.
I'd still look at some bitch in the morning too, though.
Oh yeah, I mean you totally could. But as traditionally as you would think, unless any rate, that's what I would say. Check us out, Good Guys Cigars. All the rest of what to do there, and get you some of the Flor de Olivas. All this about all that. Cigar Hall of Fame, thecigarhalloffame.com. Go and check that out. Some very good, interesting stories. We're going to be coming to you with another story next time about the Marifal family, the folks who basically saved the Cameroon leaf. We've teased that a bunch when we've smoked Cameroon cigars, and now's the right time to bring it out. But all that about all that. You want to do another one? You heard it here first, folks. Be kind to everyone. It doesn't cost a dime to be kind, but there's always a price to be paid for cruelty. And Jamie, life is too bad. I mean,
life is too short to smoke bad cigars.
See you next time.
See ya.
Cheers.
I'll be gone in the morning before the sun comes up, with me and my weenie dog and my pickup truck. And either way, baby, a good man, it's hard to find. I said, now either way, baby, a good man is hard to find.